Welcome to Eclipsed Horrors, the chilling abyss of spine-tingling tales that will haunt your every thought. Join us on a journey into the darkest corners of fear, if you dare. Story 1. Story name: The Haunting Melody of Blackthorn Manor. The story is written by Tipu Dar. In the darkest corners of the small, forgotten town of Wicker's Hollow, nestled deep within the shadowy embrace of an ancient forest, there was an eerie, abandoned mansion known as the Blackthorn Manor. The very mention of its name sent shivers down the spines of those brave enough to approach its crumbling gates. For decades, it had stood as a foreboding monument to the town's sinister history. The townsfolk avoided the mansion as if a malevolent force guarded it, and stories of inexplicable occurrences within its decaying walls had been passed down through generations. It was said that the ghost of Eleanor Blackthorn, the last resident of the manor, still roamed its desolate halls, whispering secrets to the restless night. On one fateful autumn evening, Lily Mitchell, a curious and adventurous woman with a fascination for the supernatural, decided to unravel the mysteries surrounding Blackthorn Manor. She had read every article, every account, and every urban legend about the mansion, and she yearned to explore it herself. Armed with a flashlight, a notebook, and an unyielding determination, she ventured into the eerie forest as the moon hung low in the sky. The towering trees loomed ominously overhead, casting elongated shadows that danced eerily in the moonlight. Crisp leaves rustled beneath Lily's boots as she advanced deeper into the forest, her heart pounding in her chest. The mansion materialized from the darkness, its twisted wrought-iron gate groaning in protest as she pushed it open. The entrance to Blackthorn Manor was a corridor of shattered dreams, and its grandeur, now fading into decay, whispered secrets of its glorious past. The walls were adorned with faded wallpaper, and the furniture was draped in dusty white sheets, frozen in time. Lily's flashlight flickered, casting eerie, transient shadows that appeared to be trapped in a spectral dance. As she wandered deeper into the mansion, the atmosphere grew colder, and the whispers of the past seemed to grow louder. She heard murmurs, as if echoing from another realm, and creaking floorboards heralded the arrival of a phantom presence. Lily's pulse quickened, but she pressed on, her journalistic instincts urging her to document her findings. In a dimly lit room with long-forgotten family portraits hanging on the walls, she discovered a grand piano that stood alone in the center of the chamber. Its ebony keys beckoned her to touch them, and against her better judgment, she obliged. The first hesitant note echoed through the room, haunting and melancholic. Then, as if in response, the piano keys began to move on their own, producing a melancholic melody that sent shivers down her spine. Lily's flashlight illuminated the ivory keys, but no one was there to play them. Fear gripped her, but she couldn't tear her gaze from the ethereal performance. As the ghostly pianist continued, the walls of the room seemed to come alive. The paintings, once lifeless, depicted the Blackthorn family's history in vivid, macabre detail. A young woman, presumably Eleanor Blackthorn, was portrayed in various poses of sorrow and despair, her eyes always fixed on an empty, crumbling chair beside her. It was a chair that remained empty, for Eleanor had spent her life believing her deceased lover, Samuel, would return to her. Lily was drawn to the chair as if by an invisible force. The room grew colder, and she felt the weight of centuries of sorrow pressing upon her. It was then that she saw it, a tattered, faded letter resting on the arm of the chair. With trembling hands, she unfolded the letter, and as she began to read, she realized it was a love letter from Samuel to Eleanor. His words were filled with promises of eternal devotion and a yearning to be reunited. He had disappeared on a fateful night, leaving Eleanor with nothing but shattered dreams. Lily couldn't explain the feeling that overwhelmed her, but it was as though she could hear Samuel's voice echoing through time, telling her the story of his love and his tragic fate. She was transported to that long-ago night, where he had been forcefully taken from Eleanor, never to return. As the final notes of the spectral piano piece faded into the darkened room, Lily felt an otherworldly presence, an amalgamation of love and longing surrounding her. She realized that Samuel and Eleanor were forever bound to this place, unable to find peace. Tears welled in her eyes as she understood the depth of their sorrow. She vowed to share their story with the world, to ensure that the tragic love of Eleanor and Samuel would never be forgotten. She left the mansion that night, leaving behind the piano and the room filled with sorrow, but carrying with her the spirits of those who had lived and loved within the cursed walls of Blackthorn Manor. Lily Mitchell's experience in Blackthorn Manor became a legendary tale, and the town of Wicker's Hollow was forever changed. The mansion, once feared and shunned, now became a place of reverence, a testament to the enduring power of love and the unbreakable bond that transcended even death. The whispers of the past would forever haunt the halls of Blackthorn Manor, but now they were accompanied by a sense of closure, a love story finally told and cherished for all eternity. The end. Thanks for joining us for another terrifying journey into the world of horror. Don't forget to share your thoughts, fears, and suggestions in the comments. Your feedback keeps the scares coming. Story 2. Story name: Whispers in the Shadows. The story is written by Deepudar. The moon hung low in the inky sky, casting a silvery glow over the desolate town of Ravenswood. It was a place that time seemed to have forgotten, where eerie silence reigned during the day and a haunting stillness enveloped the night. There, in a decaying cottage at the town's edge, lived a woman named Claire. She was a recluse, known to the townsfolk only as the Hermit of Ravenswood. Claire's existence was shrouded in mystery, and those who dared approach her home claimed to have heard strange, ghostly sounds emanating from within its rotting walls. On one fateful night, as the stars gleamed ominously, Claire found herself alone at the cottage, a feeling of trepidation gnawing at her. As the wind whispered through the ancient trees surrounding her cottage, Claire prepared a simple meal, her trembling hands betraying the unease that had settled in her heart. Her past was a tapestry of secrets and regrets, and tonight, the shadows that loomed in the corners of her mind seemed darker than ever. After dinner, she decided to delve into the crates of old letters and journals that had belonged to her ancestors, which she had inherited upon their untimely deaths. Claire's forebears were rumored to have been practitioners of dark arts, and their writings contained cryptic incantations and rituals that had been handed down through the generations. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she began to recite one of the incantations aloud, the words escaping her lips in a whisper. As the last syllable left her mouth, the room seemed to shudder, and the candles flickered and died, plunging her into utter darkness. Claire fumbled for her flashlight, but before she could find it, she felt a presence in the room. The air grew colder, and the floor creaked beneath unseen footsteps. Panic welled up inside her, but she dared not move, her heart pounding in her chest. Then a voice, chilling and ethereal, reached her ears. "Who dares summon me?" it hissed, like a serpent slithering through the night. Claire, trembling, managed to switch on her flashlight and aimed it toward the voice. There, standing in the corner of the room, was a figure cloaked in shadow, its face obscured. She'd awakened something that should have remained dormant. "I did not mean to summon you," she stammered, her voice quivering. "I didn't know." The figure stepped into the light, revealing a visage that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. Its eyes were pools of darkness, and its presence seemed to swallow the very essence of the room. "Ignorance is no excuse," it whispered. "You have awoken me, and now you must face the consequences." The entity's form shifted and contorted, becoming a swirling, malevolent vortex that seemed to pull Claire into its depths. She was paralyzed with fear, unable to escape the room as the shadows closed in around her. In the darkness, Claire's mind raced, her memories flooding back to her. She remembered the rumors that had plagued her family for generations, the whispers of dark powers and the curse that bound them to this forsaken place. She realized that she was the last in a line of her ancestors, the last keeper of a secret that should never have been awakened. Desperation overcame her, and she clung to the journal, searching for a way to reverse the incantation. With shaking hands, she recited the reversal, the words feeling like a lifeline in the abyss. The room shuddered once more, and the entity howled in agony. The shadows recoiled, retreating back to the corner from whence they had come. Claire's flashlight flickered back to life, and she was left alone, gasping for breath. She had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death, but the cottage would never be the same. The darkness that had been summoned still lingered, the walls bearing the weight of its presence. Claire knew that her ancestors had dabbled in forbidden knowledge, and she had come perilously close to continuing their legacy. With a newfound understanding of the dangers that lurked in the shadows, Claire vowed to seal the dark secrets of her family forever. She left Ravenswood behind, never to return, and the decaying cottage stood as a silent testament to the malevolent forces that could be awakened by curiosity and a single whispered word in the dead of night. As the moon faded into the horizon, the hermit of Ravenswood vanished into the annals of history, leaving only a lingering sense of unease in the hearts of those who had known her story. Claire had narrowly escaped the horrors of the past, but the whispers in the shadows would haunt her for the rest of her days. The end. We hope this eerie tale sent shivers down your spine. We'd love to hear your reactions and any chilling stories you might have. Share your comments below, and let's keep the horror conversation alive. Story 3. Story name: The Haunting at Willow's Hollow. The story is written by Tipu Dar. Willow's Hollow, a quaint little village nestled deep within the forest, had long been cloaked in an eerie shroud of mystery. Its tall, gnarled trees whispered secrets among their rustling leaves, and its winding paths seemed to lead to places forgotten by time. But the most chilling tale of all was that of the Hollow Manor, an abandoned mansion said to be cursed by an unspeakable evil. No one dared venture near the mansion, for its bleak facade and overgrown garden exuded an aura of malevolence that sent shivers down the bravest of spines. Some villagers claimed to hear ghostly cries and unsettling moans emanating from the decrepit structure. Yet, curiosity had a way of luring the bold and the reckless. Amelia, a young and inquisitive photographer, had moved to Willow's Hollow to escape the chaos of city life. She had heard the legends surrounding Hollow Manor but dismissed them as mere stories. One moonless night, her adventurous spirit got the better of her, and she decided to capture the mansion's eerie beauty through her camera lens. Amelia set out, her flashlight guiding her through the forest path that led to the mansion. The moonlight barely pierced the dense canopy of trees, casting an eerie glow that danced upon the path. The night was silent, save for the occasional rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. As she reached the mansion, a feeling of dread washed over her. The building loomed ominously, its shadowy silhouette standing in stark contrast to the pale glow of the moon. Amelia felt a presence, an unseen force that seemed to beckon her forward. Hesitantly, she entered the mansion, the creaking door echoing through the empty halls. The air inside was frigid, and a sense of foreboding weighed heavily upon her. Amelia began to snap pictures, each flash of her camera revealing the mansion's decrepit state. In a room bathed in eerie moonlight, she found an old, dust-covered mirror, its ornate frame displaying intricate carvings of grotesque faces. Her reflection appeared distorted, the room's shadows seemingly reaching out to her, threatening to pull her into their abyss. Amelia took a photograph of the mirror, the flash revealing a figure standing just behind her in the reflection. Her heart skipped a beat, and she whirled around, only to find the room empty. Fear gnawed at her, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something lingered just beyond her vision. She continued to explore the mansion, the whispering wind outside growing into a haunting chorus of voices that seemed to call her name. Each room held its own dark secrets, and the mansion's chilling history clawed at her imagination. Amelia's flashlight occasionally flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced upon the peeling wallpaper. As she ascended a crumbling staircase, she was drawn to a door at the end of the corridor. The room beyond was draped in heavy, tattered curtains that billowed mysteriously, despite the absence of wind. The flickering candlelight revealed a grand, ornate bed at the center of the room, its canopy hanging low. Amelia approached the bed cautiously, her camera held tightly in her trembling hand. It was then that she noticed the figure of a woman, clad in a tattered white gown, sitting at the edge of the bed. The woman's long, ebony hair concealed her face, and her hands clutched a faded photograph. A sense of sorrow emanated from the woman, and a ghostly, mournful cry filled the room. Amelia, entranced and terrified, slowly raised her camera to capture the spectral figure. But as the flash illuminated the room, the woman's face was revealed. It was Amelia's own reflection that stared back at her from the photograph the ghost held. The room suddenly grew unbearably cold, and the woman's eyes locked onto Amelia's with a haunting intensity. The ghostly figure whispered, "You have awakened me, Amelia. Now, you must take my place." Terror surged through Amelia as the room dissolved into darkness, and she felt herself being pulled into the photograph. The mansion, the ghostly woman, and the cursed room all receded into a distant memory, leaving her trapped in an eternal nightmare. As the first light of dawn crept into the hollow manor, the once abandoned mansion now stood empty, except for a single photograph. It depicted Amelia, her terrified eyes locked in an eternal, desperate plea for release. The legends of Hollow Manor grew, but the town of Willows Hollow, and the curious souls that ventured near, would never know the true horror that lay within. The end. Did this story give you nightmares? Tell us your thoughts, your own spine-tingling experiences, or your ideas for the next terrifying tale in the comments. We love reading your horror stories too. Story 4. Story name: The Midnight Message. The story is written by Tipu Dar. The small town of Gravestone, nestled deep in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, was known for its picturesque landscapes and tight-knit community. But it also harbored a chilling secret, one that had terrified its residents for generations. Every year, on the night of the harvest moon, a message would appear on the town's long-abandoned church bell tower, bearing a warning that had been etched into the town's history. Samantha, a young journalist with a fascination for the supernatural, had recently moved to Gravestone. She had heard the rumors about the mysterious message and decided to investigate it herself. As the harvest moon rose into the night sky, she found herself standing at the foot of the church, her camera in hand and curiosity driving her forward. The air was filled with an otherworldly chill as Samantha gazed up at the imposing bell tower. The message was rumored to be an omen, but no one had ever been able to decipher its meaning. She knew that many residents avoided the church on this ominous night, but she was determined to uncover the truth. With her heart pounding, Samantha started to climb the rickety staircase that led to the bell tower. The steps creaked and groaned under her weight, and the oppressive silence weighed on her like a shroud. Moonlight streamed through the narrow windows, casting eerie shadows on the cold stone walls. As she reached the top, she was greeted by the sight of an old, weathered bell that hung ominously in the center of the tower. The moonlight filtered through the cracks, revealing the faint traces of previous messages that had been etched into the bell's surface over the years. Samantha focused her camera on the bell and began taking photographs, capturing the worn engravings as she searched for the elusive message. Suddenly, an icy gust of wind swept through the tower, extinguishing her lantern and plunging her into darkness. Panic surged through her, but she knew she had to press on. With trembling hands, Samantha lit her lantern again and continued to scan the bell's surface. Her eyes widened as she finally found the message, hidden among the faded engravings. It was written in an archaic script, and the words sent a shiver down her spine. "Listen closely, for the darkness speaks, and the shadows hold their secrets. The harvest of souls is nigh, and the moon weeps for those who dare to seek the truth." As Samantha read the message aloud, the tower seemed to come alive. The bell above her began to sway, emitting a mournful, dissonant chime that echoed through the night. The room quaked, and the walls pulsed with an otherworldly energy. Samantha's heart raced as she looked around, realizing that she was not alone. Figures, ethereal and haunting, materialized in the corners of the tower. They were the restless souls of those who had attempted to decipher the message before her, their faces twisted in eternal torment. A cacophony of whispers filled the air, each voice pleading for release from the curse that bound them. Samantha was overcome with dread as the spirits closed in around her, their icy fingers reaching out as if to claim her soul. Desperation coursed through her, and she knew that she had to find a way to escape. In her haste, she accidentally knocked over her lantern, plunging the room into darkness once more. Panic consumed her as the ghostly figures closed in, their whispers growing louder, more urgent. Frantically, Samantha retrieved her camera and snapped a photograph, hoping the flash would illuminate her surroundings. In that blinding moment of light, the spirits recoiled, their wails of anguish echoing through the tower. Seizing the opportunity, Samantha stumbled down the staircase, her camera flashing sporadically to ward off the pursuing spirits. The oppressive chill of the tower clung to her like a vice, and her breath came in ragged gasps as she reached the ground. The moment she stepped out of the church, the message above the bell tower faded into obscurity, leaving no trace of the terrifying encounter. Samantha, shaken and pale, realized that she had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death. The following morning, the townsfolk of Gravestone discovered Samantha's photographs. The images revealed the ghostly figures and the cursed message etched into the bell. While some dismissed the photographs as mere trickery, others were convinced that the spirits of the past had issued a dire warning. Samantha knew she had uncovered a truth that should have remained hidden, a secret that connected the town to a malevolent force. The curse of the Harvest Moon message would forever haunt Gravestone, and Samantha's name would be forever tied to the enigmatic warning that was etched into the town's dark history. The end. Your comments keep the horror alive. Let us know what gave you goosebumps, and feel free to share your own scary encounters or suggestions for future stories in the comments below. We're dying to hear from you. In the heart of the sleepy town of Ravenswood, there stood an old ramshackle orphanage known as Agnes Home. The orphanage was perched atop a hill, surrounded by a dense forest that whispered secrets no one dared to uncover. It was a place forgotten by time, shrouded in an eerie silence, except for the strange happenings that occurred when the clock struck midnight. Jillian, a young and tenacious investigative journalist, arrived in Ravenswood with a burning desire to unearth the mysteries surrounding St. Agnes Home. The stories that had plagued the town for generations fascinated her, and she couldn't resist the urge to uncover the truth. Armed with her camera and an unyielding determination, she chose a moonless night to venture into the forest and make her way to the derelict orphanage. The forest path was swallowed by darkness, and the rustling leaves seemed to whisper secrets that Jillian couldn't comprehend. The closer she got to St. Agnes Home, the colder the air became, and a sense of foreboding weighed heavily on her shoulders. As she approached the orphanage, its sinister silhouette loomed against the night sky. The windows were shattered, and the building itself was in a state of disrepair that spoke of a sinister past. Jillian's flashlight cut through the blackness, guiding her to the entrance, which creaked open with an eerie groan. The air inside was oppressive, and an unearthly silence hung like a shroud. Jillian began to explore the orphanage, her footsteps echoing through the empty hallways. She felt an inexplicable urge to document her findings, and her camera's flash illuminated the decaying remnants of a forgotten time. It was then that she noticed a grand piano in the corner of a dilapidated room. Its keys, once pure white, had yellowed with age. The room felt like a place where countless children had once played and laughed, but now it was filled with an air of melancholy. Jillian's fingers hesitated over the keys, and, against her better judgment, she pressed down. The first note resonated through the room, haunting and mournful. It was as if the piano itself was whispering the stories of those who had once lived there, and then, as if in response, the keys began to move on their own. A spectral melody filled the room, the haunting notes carrying with them a sense of sorrow and longing. Jillian's flashlight trembled in her hand, and she couldn't tear her gaze away from the spectral performance. The walls of the room seemed to come alive. The peeling wallpaper transformed into vivid images of children who had once called St. Agnes home their refuge. Their faces were filled with hope and despair, and their eyes bore into Jillian's soul, as if begging for their stories to be heard. In the midst of the spectral performance, Jillian's attention was drawn to a tattered, faded letter that rested on the piano. With trembling hands, she unfolded it, and the words on the page told the heartbreaking tale of a child named Sarah, who had spent her childhood in the orphanage, dreaming of a life beyond its walls. As Jillian read the letter, she felt an overwhelming presence in the room. It was as if the spirits of the children were watching her, imploring her to bear witness to their stories. The ghostly melody continued, and Jillian's flashlight flickered, casting eerie, fleeting shadows around her. The final note of the spectral performance faded into silence, leaving Jillian with a profound sense of loss and longing. The room felt cold, and she could almost hear the whispers of the past echoing in her ears. The spirits of the orphanage had chosen her to share their stories with the world. Jillian left the orphanage that night, but she carried with her the weight of the children's memories and the haunting melody of the piano. She knew that their stories had to be told, and that the town of Ravenswood, with its secrets buried deep within the forest, would never be the same. The stories of St. Agnes' home became a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, and Jillian's name would forever be tied to the haunting melody of midnight. The town would never forget the young journalist who had ventured into the darkness and brought the silent steps of midnight to life. The end. If you crave more bone-chilling horror stories, make sure to subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell. Don't miss out on the terror that's yet to come. Story 6. Story name: The Forgotten Echoes. The story is written by Tipu Dar. In the desolate town of Ashenbrook, a pall of darkness hung in the air, especially at night. The townsfolk whispered stories of an abandoned asylum deep within the surrounding woods, a place known as Ravenscroft Asylum, where the deranged were sent and forgotten by society. It was rumored that the tortured souls who once inhabited the asylum had left an indelible mark, and those who ventured near it at night did so at their own peril. On a moonless night, Emily, a brave and inquisitive woman, found herself drawn to the chilling tales of Ravenscroft Asylum. Her fascination with the supernatural led her to explore the most enigmatic places, and she couldn't resist the allure of the forsaken institution. She embarked on her journey under the cloak of darkness, her flashlight illuminating the path through the dense woods. The distant hooting of an owl and the whispering of the wind created a disconcerting symphony as she approached the asylum. The building loomed before her, an imposing structure with shattered windows and a rotting facade that seemed to layer menacingly in the dim light. She pushed open the creaking doors and ventured inside. The asylum's interior was a twisted labyrinth of decrepit hallways and shattered cells. A thick layer of dust covered every surface, and Emily's footsteps echoed through the eerie silence. Her flashlight's beam revealed faded graffiti on the walls, left behind by vandals and thrill-seekers who had dared to enter. As Emily continued her exploration, she discovered a room with a solitary rusted gurney at its center. Straps dangled ominously from the sides, hinting at the horrors that had taken place within these walls. Her camera clicked as she documented the chilling scene, capturing the dilapidated room in stark detail. Moving further into the asylum, Emily heard faint whispers carried by the wind. It was as if the forgotten cries of the past were trying to reach out to her. A spectral chill crept down her spine, and she knew she was not alone. As she entered a long corridor, her flashlight flickered, and the temperature plummeted. The whispers grew louder, like a chorus of tormented souls. Emily's heart raced, and she realized that she was now surrounded by invisible spectral entities. Her flashlight beam swung wildly, revealing shadowy figures that moved with a mournful, ethereal grace. Their faces contorted in anguish, their eyes vacant and filled with despair. They reached out to her, their spectral hands almost touching her skin. "Help us," one voice pleaded, echoing through the corridor. "We're trapped in this darkness." Emily's own voice caught in her throat as she desperately searched for an escape. The specters closed in, and the whispers grew deafening. The air was thick with the sorrow of countless souls, and their anguish enveloped her. A shiver of dread coursed through her, and she remembered the legends that had warned against venturing into Ravenscroft Asylum at night. She realized she had awakened something malevolent, something that would never release her. As the spectral figures drew closer, their features grew more distinct. Emily recognized the faces of those who had been confined to the asylum, their eyes filled with a yearning for salvation. They seemed to be reenacting the horrors they had endured during their lifetimes. With trembling hands, Emily raised her camera to capture the haunting sight, but the specters recoiled from the flash. Their wails filled the corridor, and Emily knew she had a chance to escape. She ran, her footsteps echoing in the eerie darkness, her camera flashing erratically to ward off the relentless spirits. As she burst from the asylum into the cold night air, the building's silhouette seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, and the oppressive presence that had chased her disappeared. Emily stood gasping for breath, her camera filled with spectral photographs, a testament to the forgotten echoes of Ravenscroft Asylum. The following day, Emily developed the pictures she had taken. They revealed the spectral figures and the haunting scenes of the abandoned asylum. She knew that the tortured souls would finally be seen and remembered, their stories no longer relegated to the shadows. Word of her encounter spread throughout Ashenbrook, and the town realized the true horrors that lingered in the forsaken asylum. The legend of Ravenscroft Asylum became a chilling reminder of the town's past, and the specters' cries for salvation would haunt the memories of those who had dared to venture near. Emily, the woman who had faced the darkness and captured its secrets, left Ashenbrook, but the images she had taken would forever preserve the forgotten echoes of Ravenscroft Asylum, a place where the past had been eternally trapped in the confines of night. The end. Subscribe to our channel to join our community of horror enthusiasts. Hit that subscribe button and never miss a scare. Story 7. In the heart of rural Kentucky, nestled within the dense embrace of an ancient forest, lay a small forgotten town named Hallowed Hollow. It was a place with a history steeped in folklore, a town where the darkness held secrets that the townsfolk dared not whisper about. As the autumn moon hung low in the sky, the town's shadow seemed to come to life, and the air grew thick with trepidation. Sophie, a curious and fearless writer with a passion for the supernatural, had heard tales of Hallowed Hollow's haunting past. She decided to embark on a journey into the heart of this eerie town, driven by a desire to unravel the mysteries that lay shrouded in darkness. Armed with a flashlight and a journal, she ventured into the unknown. The winding path through the ancient forest was cast in an otherworldly glow as the moon's silver light filtered through the canopy. Leaves rustled beneath Sophie's boots, and the forest seemed to breathe with an unsettling energy. The trees whispered stories known only to them, and the chill in the air set her heart pounding. Sophie's destination was an old derelict mansion that stood on the outskirts of town. The house was known as the Hollow Manor, and it had earned a sinister reputation over the years. The townsfolk spoke of inexplicable occurrences within its decaying walls, and many believed that the ghosts of those who had lived there still roamed the haunted estate. The mansion materialized from the darkness like a specter. Its facade was weathered and crumbling, its windows empty and hollow. As Sophie pushed open the front door, an otherworldly chill wrapped around her, and she felt an unshakable sense of foreboding. The entrance hall was a corridor of shattered dreams, a grandeur now lost to decay. Sophie's flashlight cast eerie shadows that danced like phantoms upon the faded wallpaper. She was greeted by the presence of portraits that once hung in glory, now mere specters of a bygone era. As she ventured deeper into the mansion, the whispers of the past grew louder. She heard faint murmurs, as if echoing from other realm, and the creaking floorboards heralded the arrival of a spectral presence. Her heart raced, but the journalist's instinct within her urged her forward, to document her findings. In a dimly lit room, Sophie's flashlight fell upon an old, ornate mirror. It had an eerie presence, its frame adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to come to life in the shifting light. Sophie's own reflection appeared distorted, as if the mirror held a portal to another dimension. The mirror whispered secrets, the voices of those who had once gazed into its depths. Sophie saw the faces of the mansion's former residents, their eyes filled with sorrow and despair. One figure, a woman in a flowing gown, stared back at her, her eyes imploring Sophie to uncover the truth. Drawn by an invisible force, Sophie approached the mirror. The room grew colder, and the woman's reflection seemed to reach out, her hand almost touching the glass. It was then that Sophie noticed the woman held an old, tattered letter. With trembling hands, she took the letter from the reflection's grasp. As she read the words, it was as though the woman's voice filled the room, telling her a tale of love and loss, of promises made and broken. It was the story of a forbidden love, a love that had been torn asunder by the harsh judgments of society. As the final words of the letter echoed in the room, Sophie felt a profound sense of sadness and longing. The woman in the mirror seemed to have been bound to the Hollow Manor by the weight of her unfulfilled love and unresolved pain. With a heavy heart, Sophie vowed to share the woman's story with the world. She left the mansion that night, leaving the woman in the mirror behind, but carrying with her the spirit of love and longing that had lingered within the haunted estate. Sophie's article about the Hollow Manor captivated readers across the country. The town of Hallowed Hollow was forever changed by her story, and the mansion, once shrouded in darkness and fear, now stood as a place of reverence. The woman in the mirror and the love story that had transcended time had finally found their place in the world. The whispers of the past would forever haunt the Hollow Manor, but now they were accompanied by a sense of closure and remembrance, a love story cherished for all eternity. Hallowed Hollow was no longer a town forgotten in the folds of time. It was a place where the past came to life through the enduring power of a love that defied even death. The end. Looking for a regular dose of terror? Don't forget to subscribe and become a part of our growing horror family. The more subscribers, the scarier the stories. Join us now. Story 8. Story name, The Midnight Reckoning. The story is written by Tipu Dar. The small, desolate town of Oakwood was nestled in the heart of an ancient forest, its history steeped in shadows and secrets. It was a place where the night held sway, and the townsfolk knew better than to venture out after dark. The townspeople had heard tales of the dreaded midnight reckoning, a night when the restless spirits of the past emerged to settle their unfinished business. Sarah, a young and tenacious journalist, had recently moved to Oakwood in pursuit of a story that had eluded her for years. She was drawn to the town's haunted reputation, and she believed that the key to uncovering its dark secrets lay in the heart of the forest. Under the cover of darkness, Sarah ventured into the woods, her flashlight guiding her through the tangled underbrush. The moon above was shrouded in ominous clouds, casting an eerie pallor over the gnarled trees that loomed in the distance. As she ventured deeper into the forest, Sarah couldn't escape the feeling that she was being watched. The woods seemed to close in around her, the rustling leaves forming a chorus of whispers that sent shivers down her spine. The path grew less distinct, and she soon realized that she had lost her way. Her flashlight's beam sliced through the gloom, illuminating gnarled roots and twisted branches. The oppressive silence was broken only by the distant hoot of an owl, and the air was filled with the pungent scent of damp earth. Suddenly, Sarah stumbled upon a clearing, and in its center stood an ancient, dilapidated mansion. Its grandeur had faded over the years, and the windows were shattered, leaving only empty sockets. Sarah's heart raced, for she recognized the mansion as the long-abandoned Oakwood Manor, a place said to be cursed by a dark history. Intrigued by the possibilities of uncovering the mansion's secrets, Sarah ventured inside. The air within was heavy and stifling, and her flashlight revealed faded wallpaper peeling from the walls. She pressed forward, documenting her findings in her journal, determined to capture the essence of the manor's haunted past. She soon stumbled upon a room at the end of a dimly lit hallway, its door ajar. The room was adorned with faded tapestries and aged furniture. A lone mirror, tarnished with time, stood against the wall. As she approached it, her own reflection stared back at her, eerily distorted by the aging glass. With a sense of trepidation, Sarah gazed into the mirror. The room seemed to shift and waver, and the reflection changed. She saw a woman, her eyes filled with sorrow, standing in the same room, looking at her with a haunting intensity. The woman in the reflection spoke with a voice that seemed to emanate from the depths of the mirror. "You've come seeking answers, but beware the reckoning," she warned. "You tread on sacred ground." Sarah's heart quickened, and her reflection reached out as if to touch the glass. The woman whispered, "There are things you must know, but the reckoning is near. You must leave this place before it's too late." A chill coursed down Sarah's spine as she recognized the urgency in the woman's voice. The room began to tremble, and the mirror seemed to ripple like a pond disturbed by a stone. Terrified, Sarah stepped back and fled the room. As she retraced her steps through the manor, she heard whispers, faint and mournful, echoing through the halls. The mansion seemed to come to life, and spectral figures materialized before her, their faces twisted in pain and anguish. "You shouldn't have come," one of them moaned, and another whispered, "The reckoning is upon us." Sarah's flashlight flickered and the spectral figures closed in on her. Panic surged through her and she ran toward the manor's entrance. As she burst out into the night, the mansion behind her seemed to exhale a sigh of relief, and the oppressive presence that had pursued her dissipated. Back in the town of Oakwood, Sarah processed the photographs she had taken within the manor. The images revealed the spectral figures and the eerie messages etched into the wallpaper. She realized that the spirits were warning her of a looming reckoning, a night when the town's darkest secrets would come to light. Sarah's story about Oakwood Manor and the reckoning it foretold captivated readers across the country. The town of Oakwood was forever changed by her revelation, and the manor, once a cursed relic, was now seen as a guardian of long-buried truths. The reckoning would forever haunt the memories of those who had dared to venture into the heart of the forest, but it would also bring forth the answers that had eluded the town for centuries. Sarah, the journalist who had unraveled the town's deepest mysteries, left Oakwood, but her name would forever be associated with the night when the reckoning had come, exposing the hidden secrets of a town trapped in the clutches of darkness. The end. Join the ranks of fellow horror enthusiasts. Hit that subscribe button and become part of our community of fear seekers. More terrifying tales are on the way. Don't miss out. Story 9. Story name, The Whispering Willow. The story is written by Tipu Dar. In the quiet town of Hollowbrook, nestled beside a tranquil river, a foreboding presence loomed. For years, the townsfolk had told chilling tales of the Whispering Willow, an ancient tree that stood alone in the center of the town's oldest cemetery. It was said that the tree held a dark secret, and those who dared to be near it at night could hear its ghostly whispers. Emma, a young and adventurous photographer, had recently moved to Hollowbrook, drawn by the mysteries and legends that surrounded the town. She was eager to capture the eerie beauty of the Whispering Willow and prove or disprove the rumors that had plagued the town for generations. On a moonless night, Emma embarked on her quest, her camera and flashlight in hand. The cemetery's entrance gate creaked as she pushed it open, and a shiver ran down her spine. The air was still, and the night was so dark that she could barely see the path ahead. The cemetery was a maze of old tombstones, shrouded in ivy and the heavy cloak of time. Moonlight filtered through the dense canopy of ancient trees, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. Emma's flashlight revealed the names of those long gone, etched into the moss-covered stones. As she made her way deeper into the cemetery, the whispering wind seemed to intensify, carrying secrets and memories on its ethereal breath. The air grew colder, and the atmosphere turned oppressive, as if the weight of the past bore down on her. Finally, she arrived at the Whispering Willow, a towering tree with gnarled branches that reached out like skeletal arms. Its bark was dark and rough, and it seemed to emanate a strange energy that made Emma's skin prickle with unease. She focused her camera on the tree, capturing the stark contrast of its twisted branches against the night sky. As she began to snap photographs, the wind whispered through the leaves in haunting tones, creating an eerie symphony of voices. The whispers became more distinct, forming words that chilled her to the bone. They spoke of death and despair, of long-forgotten souls seeking solace. Emma couldn't help but feel that the tree held the memories of those who rested in the cemetery, and their spirits were trying to communicate with her. Fear began to gnaw at Emma's resolve, but her curiosity drove her to stay. She was determined to uncover the truth about the Whispering Willow. As she took more photographs, the tree's bark seemed to shift and morph, its branches contorting into grotesque faces that leered at her. A sense of dread washed over her, and the whispers grew louder, their words becoming more insistent. They spoke of a curse, of a pact with the darkness, and of a hunger for souls. The voices seemed to beckon her, urging her to approach the tree, to become one with its secrets. Emma's heart raced, and she inched closer to the Whispering Willow, her camera held tightly in her trembling hands. As she raised her camera to take another photograph, the tree's grotesque branches reached out, wrapping around her wrists, imprisoning her. Desperation surged through her as the tree's grip tightened. The whispers grew into a deafening cacophony of voices, and the world around her blurred and distorted. She felt herself being pulled into the gnarled branches of the Whispering Willow, as if she were becoming a part of its dark and twisted history. In the eerie moonlight, the tree seemed to absorb Emma, its bark consuming her form until she was no more. The Whispering Willow had claimed another victim, its hunger for souls satisfied for the time being. The following day, the townsfolk of Hollowbrook found Emma's camera lying at the base of the Whispering Willow. The photographs she had taken revealed the twisted branches and grotesque faces of the tree, but Emma herself was nowhere to be found. The legend of the Whispering Willow grew, and the town became even more haunted by its dark presence. The townspeople knew that the tree held secrets, but they also knew the price of venturing too close. Emma's name would forever be associated with the chilling tale of the Whispering Willow, a place where the whispers of the past had the power to consume the living, and where the darkness held secrets that could never be fully unraveled. The end. Ready to embrace the darkness with us? Subscribe to stay updated on our latest horror stories and chilling content. Don't be left in the dark. Hit that subscribe button now. Story 10. Story name, The Silent Watcher of Midnight Hollow. The story is written by Tipu Dar. In the secluded village of Midnight Hollow, a profound stillness settled over the land when the night's shadow stretched long and dark. This town, known for its eerie quietude, had a story that only those who dared to venture into the heart of the hollow could uncover. The story was of the Silent Watcher, an enigmatic figure that only appeared under the veil of night. Michael, an intrepid and persistent journalist, had long been fascinated by the legends surrounding Midnight Hollow. Stories of the Silent Watcher had been passed down through generations, tales of a spectral figure that materialized only when the world lay in silence. On a moonless night, Michael embarked on his quest, carrying a camera and flashlight to document his journey. The air was heavy with foreboding as he ventured deep into the heart of the hollow, where the dense forest seemed to absorb the very sound of his footsteps. The path he followed was one that had been etched into the earth by countless wanderers seeking to witness the enigmatic Silent Watcher. As Michael ventured deeper into the forest, the trees loomed overhead, their branches intertwined like skeletal fingers reaching for the heavens. An oppressive silence settled around him, and the stillness was punctuated only by the soft rustling of leaves and the distant hooting of an owl. He knew that Midnight Hollow was living up to its name, and the sense of solitude weighed heavily on his shoulders. The forest opened up to reveal a small clearing, and there, in the center, stood a massive, ancient oak tree. Its branches spread out like the arms of a benevolent guardian, and its gnarled bark bore witness to centuries of secrets. Michael felt a peculiar sensation wash over him, a feeling that he was not alone. The moonlight revealed the figure of the Silent Watcher standing beneath the oak tree. It was an ethereal, shadowy presence, and Michael could feel its eyes upon him, even though no eyes were visible. With his camera ready, Michael started taking photographs, capturing the Silent Watcher in the moon's pale glow. The figure was inscrutable, and it exuded an aura of solemnity and mystery. As the Silent Watcher moved, its shadowy form seemed to elongate and twist, its outline shifting in an unsettling dance. Michael's heart raced, but he was determined to document the encounter, even if it meant feeling the weight of the Silent Watcher's gaze upon him. Suddenly, the Silent Watcher extended a shadowy arm and pointed to the ground beside the ancient oak tree. At its feet, Michael noticed an old, weathered journal, its pages filled with cryptic writing and faded drawings. The Silent Watcher's presence seemed to emanate an urgency, as if it were trying to communicate something of great importance. Michael approached the journal, his curiosity piqued, and began to read the words scrawled across the pages. The journal revealed the Silent Watcher's story, a tale of longing, of a vow to protect Midnight Hollow and its secrets. The Silent Watcher was bound to the village, a guardian of the night, and its presence was a reminder of the darkness that lay hidden within the hollow. As Michael read, the Silent Watcher's form seemed to blur and waver, as if it were fading back into the shadows from whence it came. The figure pointed once more to the journal, as if urging Michael to share the story with the world. With a profound sense of purpose, Michael left the clearing, clutching the journal and the photographs he had taken. The legend of the Silent Watcher would no longer remain hidden in the depths of Midnight Hollow, and Michael was determined to bring the tale to the light. In the following days, Michael published his findings, sharing the story of the Silent Watcher with the world. Midnight Hollow, once a place of enigmatic silence, was forever changed. The villagers embraced the Silent Watcher as a symbol of their town's enduring mysteries and the guardian of their deepest secrets. The name of Michael became synonymous with the tale of the Silent Watcher, a journalist who had ventured into the darkness and unearthed the story of the enigmatic figure that stood as a sentinel in the heart of Midnight Hollow. The end. As the darkness surrounds us, we must bid farewell for now. But fear not, the shadows will return with new tales of terror. Subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell to ensure you never miss a nightmare. Until we meet again in the realm of horror, stay haunted, my friends.